Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka Podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Halloween episode of Baka. We are an anime podcast. Every 2 weeks, we watch an anime together. We come together to talk about it in kind of a book club format, turn the discussion over to our audience. Sometimes the show gets scary, but we're actually aiming for that this week. And we have a very special guest to help us talk about it. We have the main character of the anime Tokyo Ghoul that we watched. We have Ken Kaniki. How you doing, man? Hi.
Good. Hi. Thanks.
Do you love being a ghoul?
It was weird from the start.
What is this? I thought this was canceled.
Hi, Jason.
Godzilla, get him out of here. Take off.
Oh, man. Godzilla does not like the Japanese. Hi, Jason. Yeah.
Hi.
We're doing Tokyo Ghoul.
I'm glad I watched it because I was under the impression that the holiday we weren't doing anything.
Okay, so now that we've lost our special guest, I guess I should introduce the co-host who we will be talking about Tokyo Ghoul with. First off, we have the werewolf to my London, Jeremy. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good.
Anything you've been up to?
So, actually very little. I've been doing a little bit more work on the Armitage thing I'm working on, sculpture, but it's gonna take more time.
Okay. And we also have the vampire to my Brooklyn, Jason.
Brooklyn.
How are you? And welcome to the show, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. No, I'm unfamiliar with Brooklyn, but anyways,
it's an Eddie Murphy movie, and if you haven't heard of it, you can probably figure it's not one of the good ones.
well, at least it's not the one where he's a prince. But anyways,
that's a great one. Whatever.
My favorite is the one where he's a knight. I think it was him, right?
No,
that was a different guy.
I really hope that's not racist. Jason, how are you?
Pretty good. I got sucked back in the Path of Exile, and I'll spare a bunch of details, but I finally beat Shaper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, first time.
Now that's the guy at the bottom of that.
Don't ask him questions. What are you doing?
It's not deep.
Don't answer his question. We're moving on.
Fine. Why don't you like what I'm up to?
You're up to it every time.
I've never beat Shaper before.
This is
fine. Who is Shaper?
He is the biggest antagonist of the game.
How do you get to Shaper? That's the real.
I know that one.
So you're familiar with endgame maps. You just got to work your way to the middle, and then you got to beat his 4 guardians, and then they'll all drop a fourth of a key. And then you put all 4 keys in, then you get to his realm.
Is that place I kept dying in when we were trying to play together?
Yeah, the maps is where we always ended up losing.
Yeah.
Now, do you only get one shot at him?
No, you get 6 portals, just like any other map. So technically, 5, 6.
You get 6 lives to beat him.
Yeah.
Is this the first time you've ever beat him, or the first time since a patch?
No, ever beat him. I've tried him multiple times on different characters, and I just.
Okay, that was nice. Congratulations. We're moving on. My name is Troy.
Hey, what have you been up to, Troy?
I watched one of the best TV series I've ever seen.
No one cares. Moving on. How's Tokyo Ghoul?
Ever. The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix is one of the best scary TV shows I've ever seen. I can't recommend it enough. If you like scary shows, that is awesome. There's ghosts hidden in the background that had nothing to do with the story, but when you go back and you realize you missed them, it really creeps you out because there was a face there the whole time. And then right now I'm watching other stuff. So
I watched the trailer for it when you mentioned it, and yeah, I don't think that's too scary for me. I can handle Tokyo Ghoul, but I not that.
I have a bunch of workmates that are raving about it. There's that like, did you see that ghost?
All right, now we can talk about Tokyo Ghoul. I want to call out. Was directed by Shuhei Morita, and one of the only things he had on his credit list was I'm gonna say it wrong. Kaku Renbo Hide and Seek, and I remember that coming on Toonami on a Halloween, just like today. And it being really freaky. It was like a CGI about kids running through the city, but like in a part of the city that was abandoned for magical reasons, and monsters hunting them down. And it's like a game they had to play, but they literally are getting hunted by these monsters to death. And it was really freaky and really weird. And I just remember Toonami airing it. And so to come into Tokyo Ghoul and I find out he was the director, and it's like, oh, I remember that one thing you did. That was awesome. And the studio was Pirate. I don't know how to pronounce that. You should have looked that up. All right, let's go to our non-spoiler reviews of Tokyo Ghoul. Jason, you picked it. What'd you think?
I was impressed because after the first 3 episodes, my expectations were fairly low. It had a decent hook. Especially if you're you like the horror genre. But this kind of bridged that gap between shonen and horror and battle anime. And I felt they did a decent job with it. I actually really enjoyed myself watching.
Okay. Jeremy, how about you?
So my window of time was one day where I'd have an opportunity to watch this. And I watched all 12 episodes back to back, and I didn't want to get up and walk away, which usually happens when I watch that many episodes. It was really good. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Fantastic. I'm kind of middle ground on it. I think there's some really good stuff about it. I love the concept of it. The hook, I think, is good. The battles felt a little so-so. I might be judging a little too harshly due to being a My Hero Academia fanboy.
It's a little older.
Mm-hmm. It is, and it's a different thing. Like, this isn't pure teen power fantasy like a true shonen anime, because there's the horror element. And I love the idea of mixing the shonen and a different genre. I love Food Wars, which is silly, but that applies to here as well. There's just a few issues I had with it, but I think overall I did enjoy my experience with it.
I love how you found the connection between this and Food Wars. It's like these guys have one ingredient.
This is the opposite of Food Wars. They eat one thing, and I do not enjoy watching them eat it.
No, nobody has foodgasms.
Well, maybe one guy.
Yeah. One guy that does.
All right, let's talk about the opening and closing theme songs. Guys, what did you think of the opening and closing?
I enjoyed the opening. The closing was so-so, but it was fine.
I don't remember the closing, but I loved the opening. At first, I hated it because it was like whisper, 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 and it was kind of irritating, but it really grew on me, and I kind of wondered if it would as the anime progressed, and I got to know the character and the situation he was in, if that kind of whispering made sense, and sure enough, it did.
Yeah.
I agree with everything Jeremy said, except for I loved this opening before we even watched the show. It was already in my playlist. And one thing I didn't expect is I love the visuals that went along with it. By the time 12th episode rolled past, I was like, I absolutely love that opening, every part of it.
However, there is a better version.
Yeah, I found one of the English dub by Jonathan Young with the rock version. I like that, but I think Nate Wants to Battle as one. I'm sure Lian Lee has a really good one. Those are the more popular English dub singers. But let's go into our spoiler section now. So we are going to be talking about the plot of season 1. We only watched season 1, the first 12 episodes, and we will be doing season 2 next podcast. So just so you know, spoilers for everything in season 1, and we don't know what happens coming forth. So we'll probably have a lot of dumb theories like we do when we tend to do this kind of stuff. And we definitely have no idea what happens in the 3rd season that had just recently aired, which is why we went back and started this from scratch. Okay. Spoiler warning given. Let's talk about Tokyo Ghoul, guys. This is a world where ghouls live, and ghouls are very, very similar to humans, except for they have supernatural strength and endurance and regenerative abilities. And the only thing that they like to eat is humans. They actually
Well-
cannot eat human food.
Let's be a little more clear. It's not that they like; it's that it's the only thing they can. If they eat or drink anything else besides water and coffee, it hurts them.
There is one exception I thought was interesting.
Other
They
than
can-
coffee or the
They
coffee?
can eat themselves.
They can, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
That is
it just tastes gross.
yeah.
Right. Doesn't have the
Which they never really describe what is different between that gross and human food gross. So I don't know.
right. Well,
And also, if eating yourself is a net negative, how did they regenerate? But anyways,
There's actually, there's a moment where someone's like, I regenerated by eating myself. I don't get that at all.
right?
the anime starts with a very mature scene. We really should have dropped a mature content warning on this, and we just didn't know. I really thought we were walking into a more teenage show.
That's okay. We're just working up the Goblin Slayer, so it's all good.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to that. A nude woman standing on a pile of corpses just eating away, and a man attacks her, and they have a quick battle. She gets away, the man, and steals the man's weapon.
Toy?
His kinky.
Yeah.
How it's pronounced, but that's what I wanted to say every time I saw the spelling.
It's technically a tool, but it's specially made for him, and like it has special properties because it's a big plot element that he had to get it replaced. That drives a lot of plot in this anime, and we will talk about those characters in a moment. But then we meet our main character, who is a human boy who likes to hang out with his buddy, drink coffee, and he has a crush on the girl that always frequents the coffee shop that he goes to. He's planning on asking her out, or hoping to ask her out, which they do. This is our main character, Ken Kaniki. I call him Ken, though. You guys will probably call him Kaniki. That's and that's what everyone called him throughout the anime. But guess what's easier to write in notes? And his first name is Ken. He is our main character, and he's going to be transformed into a ghoul and carry us through this plot. So, what did you guys think of our main character?
I liked him as the plot device because I normally don't like plot devices. I don't like things that are there specifically to push a plot along. Unfortunately, he didn't have a ton of personality, and I think he needed more. But I did like his character growth, so I give a lot of hand waving to this character. I do think he was. I'm not sure if he was written poorly or if it was just the English dub, because I did notice with this, and it is an older anime, so I'm going to give it a little hand waving there as well. The voice sync didn't seem on par with what we see today. It was decent. It wasn't too distracting, but it was noticeable. So,
probably with his character worse than anything else. I did feel like his character just felt a little off. That thought did hit me too.
Yeah. He was a little hollow through about halfway through, and I think he grew on me as a character. But because I assume the elitist among us, Jeremy, will have watched the sub. I would like to hear his comment or his thoughts on it. If that kind of translated as well.
I actually really liked this character. He never came across as hollow to me. I thought it was really interesting when you were describing that mismatch in the dub. He seemed like a character who had his own problems in his own life, wasn't a particularly interesting character in the sense that he never had a goal to stand out.
Right.
And so by its own nature, that kind of makes him someone who isn't going to grab your attention the way that, say, his best friend does, who's a bit more, effervescent. And so, yet internally he had a lot of turmoil, and that came across really well in the sub, I thought. I actually found him to be a really good character in the sub version. Especially in the last few episodes. That arc for him is so good. Just seeing the inner dialogue and the things he has to deal with.
Oh, the cliffhanger they leave us on. Oh my god.
I know. I'm not so happy about the abrupt ending. Do you know, Troy, if these came out as like a single batch of 24 episodes for these 2 seasons, or if it was relatively close in the space of time? Am I putting you on the spot, huh? I can look it up in the meantime.
I don't know. And ever since you mentioned that, I've been kind of thinking to myself, does it matter? what's the fairest way to judge the anime? Because there's even if it released on Crunchyroll right after another, what if someone bought just the DVD set of season 1? Or what if it took them a year to do that? That's not really their fault. Are you not allowed to use a cliffhanger if you also have to go back and do a production time?
Do you think it's really fair to call it a cliffhanger, though? Because, I mean, there's so many threads that are all active at this point, and they're all just...
They're crescendoing at this point, too.
Yeah, and it's like, you would think that they would at least, like, finish this story if they're intending to have a gap between season 1 and season 2 of any length, like 6 months or a year.
So, in something like... Seven Deadly Sins, I would say, yeah, it's because Seven Deadly Sins, we actually watched season 1 in 2 parts, but the 13th episode, the show gets a new name. It's like Tokyo Ghoul, root sign of curse of A. Like,
right.
So it's a full different season. Like it's very significant that episode 13 is the start of a new story.
Interesting.
So for this anime, I think this is a full ending, and then we're going to start again.
It's a full year. Oh no, it's a full 6 months before the next.
Yeah, I'm not super fond of that kind of a gap with this kind of an abrupt ending. It seems a bit
because they introduced like 3 other characters that were really pinnacle, and then they just left it.
Just dropped it.
We're jumping a little ahead too, though.
Okay, that's true.
So what I wanted to say about him is, for me, he's actually one of the weakest elements of the anime. I like most of the other characters a lot. I had a hard time with because I had a hard time connecting with his motivations because there weren't a whole lot there. He's kind of just adrift in this story. In this dub.
Okay.
He reminded me of the main character of the Bungo Stray Dogs.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Where he's just a guy having a hard time, and then a story is happening around him, and he's kind of trying to catch his footing. And that's not as interesting to me. However, at the end of this season, I'm fully convinced that changes. I know a little bit, and I'm pretty sure like this character is going to go through major character changes throughout this entire story. I believe like major arcs literally change this character, and I'm very excited to see who he is in season 2. But season 1 version of him, I was not particularly fond of. He hangs out with his best friend Hide, who is a human boy. I don't even know. He's not in the anime a ton, but he's a central motivation for the main character. So I didn't even know if we wanted to talk about him. He kind of just feels like a MacGuffin of emotion.
Well, how much do you think he's actually aware of what's going on, even though he doesn't let...
I think he's super aware.
Yeah. I think that's an important aspect of the character, that he's maintaining an image of ignorance for the main character because he still wants to stay close to him. But we don't really know his full intentions, whether he's simply investigating, whether he has some ulterior motive, whether it's just out of friendship. I think those things kind of make him complex to me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he didn't get enough screen time, but like Troy mentioned, there's a lot going on in every single episode, and I think just his threat was enough, but I would have loved to see more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the next character, I actually meet a couple of characters right off the bat. And that's something about this anime. Like, a character will come by, they'll be like, hey, that's that name. And then they'll go away for like 20 minutes and then come back. And then their real intro scene, and I'll be like, oh gosh, did I write that name down? And there was a lot of characters in this, and some characters they didn't even bother to introduce. I'm thinking of Yomo. They're just like, hey, get in the car with Yomo. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, wait, who's Yomo? And I'm like, oh, this is Yomo. You don't know Yomo? He's this guy.
And he's like, okay, we're going to train. It's like, who is he?
Who are you?
Yeah.
But the next character we meet proper is Rize, who's the girl that Ken has a crush on. He goes on a date with her. And then she proceeds to try to eat him because she is actually a ghoul, and he is her prey. Thoughts? And she's going to die like right away in this story, but she has a lingering presence throughout everything for very specific reasons.
adored what they did with this character. They went like really, really high evil with her. And then they just said, I guess I'll spoil this. Accident happens while she's trying to eat him. To save his life from this accident, they inject a ton of her organs into him, right? So you've got this high level evil going into this high level nativity.
Yeah.
And like pacifistic good. And now you've got this clash in this character while all this stuff is happening around. And I really, really dug that part of the story. And I like her presence throughout it. Not that she was this lingering psychopathic, very cliche, I'm gonna ruin your life kind of thing. I really like the way that she was sprinkled out throughout the series.
Yeah, it was really cool how one of the defining factors about her character was her love of not just books, but of this author who presumably is going to become more and more important as the series goes on, I hope, because they really have been like leaving little hints that
they talk about that author.
Yeah, everybody knows this name, right? And apparently, he's writing very complex things, and so there's not a lot of people who enjoy his writing, and yet she's one of them. So that gives a good lead. I mean, as far as the characters that we know.
Wasn't the author a woman?
Yes.
Was it a woman?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
I couldn't tell. I just heard a name and
right.
One thing I would like to mention. Rize and Jason are our first introduction to ghouls of this universe. I loved the just collage of ghouls that they give in this story, because your first impression is, oh, ghouls are evil. Ghouls are here to eat people. Like that's all they do. And then as we meet characters and go on, that conception changes, and because of that, you get this really cool like collage or kaleidoscope of morality that ends up happening that the show doesn't push in your face, but goes, right. What if you think about this? If you were in these shoes or these shoes? So yeah, it was really neat. I thought Rize brought a level of complexity to a fairly simple show that was lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a really interesting villain that's just kind of sort of there.
Yeah, I liked her presence, and I like how even among ghouls, right? She's the glutton, right? She kills people and just eats and eats and eats and eats and eats, and even the other ghouls are like, "Wow, that is a lot." And then how once she's a part of Ken, that she represents this lack of inhibitions that he's using or that he's trying to hold back his new feral mentality, and she is the voice of that.
Yeah,
I liked how that played out.
So villain number one, Rize.
She gets crushed by steel girders in a accident with finger quotes, and then they scoop up her organs and they throw them inside Ken. He gets her eye and then a bunch of other random parts.
I really wanted to know about the doctor that did this, because he's mentioned a couple times.
He is mentioned. So this is clearly not like a, oops, we put a ghoul in you. It was very much a, oh yeah, we're going to put a ghoul in you.
Right.
Yep.
And also they mentioned somebody caused the accident, but I don't know if we ever find out who.
Right.
I don't know who.
This is one of the first things that bugged me, though, because they're like, he's having surgery, he's in the hospital, and then he's just on the street, a ghoul. And no one says anything to him. No one even tells him about the diet thing. Like, he gets home and the news says ghouls can't eat real food. And he's like, oh no.
Well, I got the impression that when he was leaving the hospital, the people there weren't supposed to know she was a ghoul.
Right.
And they weren't supposed to tell him.
That was the impression I got too.
But he knew.
He didn't know.
He knew she was a ghoul. She bit him.
No. Like, he didn't know necessarily that he was a ghoul. I mean, the shock that he expressed when his description of what food tasted like matched the description of what food tastes like to a ghoul meant that he had never connected where the organs maybe came from.
So you feel that's properly fleshed out?
Yeah, that's what I got as well.
Yeah, that's where my head went.
Yeah, he got home. He was like, "Why does this stuff taste gross?" And then he heard it on the news, and he's like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we have that whole montage of him trying to eat crap out of his refrigerator.
Trying to disprove it and be like, no, it's a fluke.
And then he tries to stab himself.
Yeah. Which I don't understand that blade thing, but
No, the Cogony makes your skin tough, so metal can't pierce it.
He's been in the hospital a while.
Right. Yeah.
Hide even says, I came to visit you.
Which makes me think that he was probably fed intravenously, and who knows what they put into him. If the doctor put ghoul parts on purpose, the doctor probably could have sourced some blood.
And if you remember, the nurse was like, you're not eating again. And he's like, yeah, because he tried eating it and he couldn't.
Right. Yeah.
In the hospital.
Yeah, that's right.
This is a huge story jump to me. And I was like, what? Oh my God, what's his reaction going to be? And he's just like, oh God, I can't eat hamburgers. And I'm like, wait, what? Okay, we jumped. Now, the next scene where he is trying to eat human food and like force it down and throwing up over and over again was fantastic. My favorite part when he grabs the condiments and just sprays it in his mouth, and you hear like a hiss when it hits his tongue. That was so good. That was a very good scene. I felt a little whiplashed, and that happens multiple times in this anime. To me,
I didn't get that impression. But
yeah,
okay. He then wanders the streets, starving, smelling humans, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds really good."
Quite a bit of time had passed here in my mind.
This scene was fantastic because he's got this just jumbled mess of morality going on in his head when he looks at these kids and he's like, "Oh, children, they smell delicious."
That was awesome. And then, like, the one lady she's like, "Is he okay?" And the husband's like, or the boyfriend or whatever, he's like, "Don't get involved. Are you stupid? Don't get involved." Apparently this is a problem. I mean, and I started to get clues from like Ward 20. I don't know if that's a thing that's pretty normal in Japan. Are they called wards instead of district? I don't know, but Ward 20, and then people are used to this thing. And I was like, wow, there's so much more backstory here. This is a problem that's been going on and everybody knows about it. It's not hidden.
The indirect world building in this anime is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
He finally smells something he thinks he can go eat, and he finds another ghoul eating a corpse.
Yeah,
and he's pretty freaked out by that. And then another ghoul shows up who's super territorial. Character Mishke, who we will be meeting even more later. And he one shots the ghoul eating the corpse, just kills him. Starts getting rough with Ken, and then the waitress from the coffee shop shows up and helps, and her name is Toka. She's probably the second main character of this anime. Mm-hmm. What did you guys think of her?
I really enjoyed her complications as a character and a character in general. Because she's, she grew up as a ghoul, and obviously she's got a fairly tragic backstory, especially with her familial ties to her brother. But that she wants to be kind, she wants to help, but she also has to eat people. So, and also, she's basically a teenager, and she makes very rash decisions. And I like that about it.
She kind of reminded me of Rukia from Bleach for a lot of this, as like, she's the supporting character that's right there to always helping it. She's a powerhouse in the beginning, but eventually she's going to have to step back because he's going to overpower her and take the lead, right?
It makes rash, dumb decisions.
Yes. I liked her, but there was so much left that was mysterious about her that I don't feel like I know her yet. So she was interesting to me, and I like where they're going with her story, but I'm kind of tentative there. I'm waiting to see what they develop with her. She seems very interesting.
Yeah, very close to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
I liked her too. I thought she was up there as one of my favorite characters. I actually liked her building friendship with Kaniki and everything that's going on there.
I think one of the things I appreciate about it, there's nothing stereotypical about it, or cliche. It felt very natural, and it wasn't just this instant romantic connection from one side or the other. Like there didn't seem to be that level, and Yeah, go ahead.
It does also help to flesh out that Ken, on the surface, seems a very weak person. He projects weakness, and so she especially initially writes him off as a weak loser. Why are we giving this guy the time of day?
Mhm.
And that he actually has a reserve of inner strength. Who would have thought in a shonen anime that would be the case? But he does have it, and that she becomes aware of it, she grows to respect him more. And so that was what I really liked. And I liked her complications, especially as much as I complain about, we're talking about eating food again, that she tries to eat her friend's cooking, and that she has a human friend that she does care about. Some of the ghouls like that have that kind of stuff. It's odd. It seems odd to me.
I think of it as almost like a pet relationship where they're like, I really love this one so much. I care so much about them. I don't want to eat them. I, in fact, want to be their friend, right? I mean, just looking at it from the fact that they're kind of the apex predator here. And
Right.
so it's her way of saying, you know, she's my friend. We're the same. I can eat the food she makes. It's a gift, even though it's almost killing me. It was I thought that was a really good sequence, actually. The fact that she kept trying and later getting a big pot of it. And he's like, what are you going to do with that? I'm going to eat it. What do you think I'm going to do? She made it for me.
We're going to get back into that later, but I'm going to move us forward.
Okay.
She tries to force food into his mouth. Because she's like, you got to eat. He's like, if I eat, I'll be one of you. And she's like, well, I'm going to make you eat. So screw it. After that, a old man named Yoshimura appears. He runs a coffee shop in the 20th ward, and his whole thing is like, ghouls can find a better way. We don't have to murder people. We can find a way to deal with our diet that we have to have and still coexist and be normal people. And so he wants to take Ken in and help them, because that's just kind of what he does. And he does do that. He gives Ken some food, which Ken eats, right? Because at first he's like struggling, and at one point they just showed him grab it, and then the next scene he's walking to Hide at school. He ate it, right?
Yeah.
It's implied, but we don't see him eat it because he gets interrupted as he's like grasping it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So once he meets up with Hide's like, hey, I gotta go talk to my friend about schoolwork, because they're in college,
Yeah.
I believe. And this friend is the territorial ghoul from the night before. So this is Mishke. I don't have him on our notes list, but do you guys have any thoughts on him? Because I actually really like this character.
I actually really liked him too. It's so funny. Here's this monster people eater guy that acts just like a jockish, jerkish high school or college guy. and I really liked that about him, and I really liked his arc. He had a really good arc. So
he's like a weak Vegeta to me, because I mean he's villain number 2.
He is.
And I liked what they did with him, and I liked that they fleshed out his backstory a lot. I like what they do with these ghouls. Like, they keep showing you, hey, this is the ghoul, this is what they're like. What do you think of them? You hate them, don't you? You hate them. And then here's what made them that way. What do you think of them now? They've changed. What do you think of them now? Yeah. And I like that. He's kind of the...
They do that even with the dubs.
I worried they did it a little too much. Because it became like, oh, here's a ghoul. I know he's on our side. And here's a ghoul. We're going to fight him. Yeah, he's on our side.
Yes. I agree with that.
But I think the one thing that tempers that is, so specifically with another character we're going to be introduced to, he might be on their side, but they don't like him.
He didn't become a good guy. Like, Mishke is like, look, I'm gonna walk the straight and narrow. I got a human being I care for now. But before that happens, Mishke knocks out Hide and actually attacks Ken. They have a battle. Ken manages to win by summoning what ghouls call Kagame?
Yeah,
Kagami.
Kagami.
Okay.
Which are basically really cool tentacles, tails, things.
Kind of. I think
They're
it's
just like fleshy appendages but everyone's is different.
right.
Not always even fleshy. Sometimes they're like wings, things of energy that shoot crystals. Like,
Yeah.
this is the mage side of these things, and if this is the thing that also stops blades and pins and stuff from damaging their flesh and helps to make them so durable, in my mind, it's almost hard to think of them as ghouls as anything other than just, hey, they're ghouls because they eat flesh, but they're really this other strain of human beings that's like broken off. They're like the X-Men of a really dark anime version.
It's Cyclops, but he has to eat people.
Yes.
There's
theories about this. It's like Marvel zombies, I think.
One thing we learn later is that if they aren't eating, summoning these is really hard to do.
That's the fuel.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so he manages to win by putting a giant hole in the guy.
Oh god, I loved this sequence because he's like, you see the tentacles shooting out and like striking and pulling back and striking and pulling back, and he's got like 3 of them, so they're all doing this in rapid succession as the guy's being lifted up, and you hear him and he's screaming, F-bomb, F-bomb. You're killing me, I'm gonna die. And I'm like, wow, that choice of dialogue is so fascinating coming from this villainous character.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment he senses his own mortality and regrets his action of like, how did I make this chess move? Crap. It was really good.
Yeah, I agree that it just kind of showed that these ghouls almost act tough to get by, but they're just as vulnerable. Because other than their diet and the powers, they are people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I'm a little conflicted on, but what I like to hear. It should also be noted Ken's Kagame are Rize's. He's adopted hers, or
for a long time he just has 3 instead of her 4 too, which I thought was an interesting choice.
Well, you gotta go Super Saiyan at some point, man.
You gotta leave that 4. Yep.
Over and hard tower.
Yep.
However, his hunger gets the better of him, and the Rize voice is like, "Hey, your best friend's right there, sleeping, chewy."
And if anyone's going to eat him, it probably should be you.
Right. And he's like, you know what? That sounds right.
Yeah.
And Toka actually shows up and stops him. And he like wakes up the next day in the coffee shop because he's like, well, then I'll kick your. Oh, yeah, I'm asleep. Knocked out.
And she actually has a bunch of bandages on, so he put up a pretty good fight. She
took him down. He wakes up at the coffee shop. He learns that they fed him. And he's offered a job there at the coffee shop. This is a scene I had trouble with because it's early in the anime, and he says to Yoshimura, the old man, he's like, my real concern is that I'm not a human and I'm not a ghoul and I don't belong in either world. I'm like, this just happened to you and you're still trying to get over the fact you can't eat anything. That seems like a weird focus for me. So early, like that seemed like a season 2, season 3 thing. Like, what am I? Who am I? But he's on that train immediately, and it just felt early to me.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but then he works at a coffee shop, and he learns how to pour coffee.
I thought that was really strange, and I hope they flesh out some kind of logical reason why coffee works, why coffee's okay for them to eat. Caffeine. I mean, just the fact that, like, if you think about it, it's just ash, right? Like the coffee beans, if they're burned well enough, it's just ash. Mm-hmm. So could you just burn any food into ash and then they can eat it? Like, I don't know. Or is it just something about the chemistry of coffee? I hope they flesh that out because this is going to bug me.
It's just hot bean juice.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're not going to. I have a feeling that that's just a look. We can't eat food, but I think it'd be really cool if they drank coffee. Like, they're cool. But I could be wrong. Maybe.
Well, we don't see him try to attempt to drink soda.
So the Jason character, who I love as a villain, his name is Jason. made me smile every time. He goes to this doctor to get his weapon toy tool thing replaced. And this is why I said like that thing being taken by Rize drives a lot of plot, because the doctor then, knowing that puts his life in danger, sends his wife and child away, and they go to the coffee shop to live and hide. And a lot of stories going to come out of that. And when this happens, Ken at first is like, wait, this is weird. Why are they coming here? And Toka warns him, you watch out for the people with she called them the box carriers. Watch out for the box carriers, which we find out are basically the anti-ghoul police.
Mm-hmm.
The Doves. They have a couple different names. CCG.
Investigators.
And we meet two of them. The names, we have Kurio Mata, and who is this white-haired, kind of a messed up face a little bit.
Yeah.
Pretty psychotic. But very effective investigator. And he likes to kill ghouls and take their Kagani and make it a weapon.
Well, I think all of them do that. He just has
that's true. I think that's right.
Collecting them.
Their weapons are all ghoul.
He seems to have what is indisputably a horrific joy in doing it. That the others, maybe it's just a job. Maybe, they take some joy in the justice of it. But for him, it's like, does that hurt? Oh, does this hurt? Oh, I'm going to kill you.
And we also meet his partner, Kotaro, who's a younger, more by the book guy, but has no issues with his partner's idiosyncrasies. Like,
or insanity.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of these two characters?
I was actually grappling with this earlier today. Amund, I can totally get all of his motivations. I can get where he's coming from. He's kind of that stereotypical straight cop. Not just doing his job, but doing his job for justice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Motto is like nearly top spot for bad guy.
Yes. Another villain.
right. But from the human world, sure, he's a little psychotic, but he's a good guy. But from if you box him in and describe him in a list, he's a bad guy. So I found his character very interesting. I hated him, at the same time loved the idea of his position and the things he was able to get away with just because he was doing it against the ghouls.
Yeah. I kind of saw him specifically as the counterpoint to the most heinous villains of the ghouls, right? Like the counterpoint to Jason, the counterpoint to Rise, and especially where they go in the latter episodes where they're discussing about, making choices rather than just not doing anything at all. And you get to really get this idea of, who's putting people in positions where they have to make these choices, where they have to do something bad. Well, there's a human that's doing the same thing. I mean, they even there's a sequence where they go shot by shot. A ghoul is the victim of a human, and the human is saying the same thing to the ghoul, and the ghoul is saying the same thing to the human, and then a human is a victim of the ghoul, and they're having the same dialogue, and it flashes back between the two dialogues to show that, this might be the human that's in control and attacking the victim here. Oh God, this is sounding so confusing. The human that appears to be the victim to this ghoul in this scene, but they're experiencing the same thing that this ghoul, who is a victim to a human in this scene, is experiencing. So really, if you strip away ghoul and human, you have villain or abuser and abused. And I thought that was really interesting that Mato could fit that and allow for that parallel perspective on these characters. Amon I actually really liked because he's like a lawful good hero who also has a brain. And that's actually really enjoyable to see, where someone can have very strong morals and everything, and yet they're still willing to say, okay, maybe there's information I don't have, and I need to understand the situation and where you're coming from.
And I like that Ken's speech to him bugs him. I think that's brilliant writing.
Yep.
I really like Amon Kotaro because he could be the main character of this anime
Mhm.
on a drop of a dime. And I believe he actually has his own spin-off anime in the same universe that like
No
follows
kidding.
his story. I think I read that, but I didn't want to like dive too deep into the Tokyo Ghoul world. I already know too much about this because just years of hearing things, seeing things in memes and whatnot. Because like in the intro, I knew with the white hair and how that came about, and so that was spoiled for me, and I couldn't help it. But so I really liked him. Curio reminds me of at least the theme of the movie I Am Legend, and I don't specifically mean the Will Smith one, but I mean like the original story or Omega Man, which is, he's the last human and everyone has turned into like a vampire or a monster, and so he's always fighting his way past them and finding ways to beat them and stay alive, and they come for him at the end, and he's like, spoiler for a very old movie, he realizes from their point of view he's a monster who's been killing the people. Like, he's one of a kind. He's the monster. He's the weird thing that's stalking the night, which is to them the day, and takes them out of their beds and steals them away and kills them. And it makes you think, when the monster can feel and think and have empathy, anything that's hunting it down is also the monster to them. And Curio really emphasizes that. And he also is the start of a cycle of vengeance that I think is probably my favorite theme of this anime is the cycle of vengeance. Like you said, they become two characters on opposite sides giving the same speech about, how could you do that? How dare you? Mm-hmm. So I actually did enjoy these characters a lot. After we meet them, we meet Yomo, because Ken is sent on a shopping trip with Yomo. Like, hey, get in the car with Yomo and go shopping. Guys, I actually love Yomo. Yeah. I don't know anything about Yomo, but I love him.
He's a contender for favorite character for me, just because of later he gets run through and like blood dripping from his mouth. It just doesn't even phase him. It's like as if like a butterfly had hit him on the face, and like he just continues doing what he's doing. Like he is so bad action.
He's like Kakashi in Naruto, but he talks even less. I think he has like maybe 6 lines in this entire anime, if that.
But this shopping trip is actually one of my favorite complications about this whole story, because you've got Yoshimaru with this need and this place, this safe haven for ghouls. How do you get meat? Well, Troy, tell us what happens.
They go to a place where people are famous for committing suicide, and they pick up the suicide victims and they bring them home to eat.
See, I thought they were going to go to a morgue or something like that. This was really good.
I wouldn't be surprised if they also had that, because it seems like if you count on just one windy road that people like to jump off as your only food source, I imagine they have multiple.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
but I like that, because it's like, if you think about it, there's lots of people that die on a very regular basis for very mundane or regular things.
Japan is really, really high on the suicide rate too. So
right. So I mean, there's really no need to go out and hunt if there's just places you can scavenge.
Food laying around.
Right. The only complication for me was like, well, what about the families if they want the body?
I don't think they care.
It's probably more of just a own sense of morality. Like, I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
Because if people found out, they'd probably be like, hey, these ghouls killed this guy. They probably wouldn't even chalk it up to suicide. Hey, this person disappeared. I bet it was a ghoul that killed him. Right. So in the public side, it's probably still a ghoul kill. But to these ghouls, they're doing the best they can morally.
I wonder if there's like some kind of a background story where they're like handing the teeth to somebody in the morgue and saying, okay, this person suicide but ghoul food. Here's the teeth, you can identify them.
It is interesting. There's not like more mobs formed like oh my god, that guy's weird, let's get him, he's gotta be a ghoul. With as many people who seem to be dying on a regular basis, because they say like each ghoul only eats like once a month.
But we see a lot of ghouls.
And that'd be a lot of deaths.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have a quick scene of meeting Uda, the mask maker, because you need to have a mask so the investigators, if they do see you, can't identify you.
I liked Uda.
This was a cool scene. The mask seemed a little extra flamboyant, but it fits with his character at least. So he just seemed like the kind of guy who would make really extravagant, weird mask for you to wear.
I loved his opening because they're like looking for him. And like lives on this street where he is among the masks.
Yeah. I knew you were coming, and I wanted to surprise you.
Right?
We also meet the doctor's daughter in a scene where Ken sees her eating and freaks out and then has to apologize, but he actually makes friends with her. And Hinumi, she's a major plot point. So any thoughts on her?
I usually don't like when stories exploit a child character to make either points or a scene. I thought she was brilliant. I really liked her addition to the story.
She was a child character with agency. That's for sure. I thought it was interesting because in a way she could almost be a main character too. Because she's inheriting both her parents' best traits, quote, right? And so she has something special about her. Plus, from her, I realized that ghouls actually are like an alternate strain of humanity that are living their lives alongside humanity, reproducing, carrying on their genetics into their children, and that those genetics specifically seem to be attached to the Kagane or Kagane or whatever. And yeah, and so like through her, so much was revealed and everything, and she's also pivotal for quite a few very emotive scenes. But yeah, I liked her. She was interesting.
I agree with Jason. Like her scenes were really good. My worry for her is in the future. How is she just not the baby that was added to the sitcom, and now everyone just has to deal with the fact that there's a baby on the sitcom and the baby brings nothing to the sitcom? Like if you time skip, you can age her up and then make her a part of the adventure, the team. But right now, everything is like, okay, where do we put her? We got to put her on a tree next to the recon lady for this scene, and she'll forever have to be there because you can't have a little girl running in every battle who can't help. Even though she powerful enough, she probably could. Yeah, we'll see.
I think another interesting thing about her is that hairstyle change, especially for women, is usually a signifier of a major change in life. Like they're changing some way psychologically to be some different person. It's often a breakup or something like that. Right. So after her mother and her father were both dead, she gets this hairstyle change, and it looked to me like they were trying to make her older too, like make her appear to be an older character. And you're right, they do have her sit with someone else who's kind of outside of the major battle at the end of the season. But I like the idea that there can be this other character that's young, and they're kind of coming into their own in the background, and you get to see they kind of help make the world have a credibility that the world is moving forward as they grow into the position of being able to help. I could see that being interesting if they go that way.
Yeah, and it's okay that she didn't have like another major story beat in the first season, but it'll be interesting to see if she just kind of gets pushed into the far background. Like, hey, we did the thing with you. We don't want to deal with little girl, or if they pull her in deeper. So it could really go either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the next episode, and actually at the end of the third one, we meet Kayama, this the connoisseur of ghouls. He likes to eat flamboyant meals, which, people. Which, by the way, this anime will never let you forget. Don't ever forget they're eating people, because it will tell you they're eating people.
It is the only thing that makes them ghouls.
I do wish there was more. I just wish there was something more to ghouls than just like, we also eat people.
Yeah. They should have donkey feet. Then they'll be the true Muslim ghouls from antiquity. Yeah, apparently the word has its root in Arabian folklore. That's the one characteristic that was the same, is they had donkey feet.
I find it interesting, Troy, that this is such a hang-up for you, right? That this particular pinnacle point of their entire existence is eat people, and just because they're constantly dealing with this issue that we need to live alongside these people that are basically the same as us, they just don't have powers and they don't eat each other.
But they are our food.
And I've said this before, it isn't so much the eating people, it's more that we can't eat food and how much they love to talk about
Kind of reminds me of vampire stories, right?
I didn't feel it pushed in my face as much as you did, but vampire stories?
Yeah, like Interview with a Vampire and also Being Human and things like that. Like those are the things that get in the way the most of their survival. I mean, not only is it an opportunity for them to be outed for what they are and then hunted,
Right.
killed,
Which is why it's brought up so much.
but it's also
Right.
a major difficulty for them in just, you know, the psychological having to do that changes you, you know, because we do see some ghouls who they refuse to do that. They don't want to be a murderer, like the main character that we have. And he's not the only one though. And so, yeah, that's just interesting. It really reminds me of Being Human. Like it kind of has to be a major point of contention for the anime.
So kind of growing off of that, Kayama actually is one of my favorite characters because he felt like the ghoul that fit the rule set they built for these ghouls. He felt like look, I don't have time to have empathy for my food, and so I can only see it as a meal. I can't look at these people and see a mother and daughter. You know, I can't look at even another ghoul and think of that's my friend, or like everything is a meal to me. That's the world I live in. That's the species I am. So he made sense to me. And then we have other characters who are like, oh, this bird's hurt. We got to save this bird. I'm like, you eat people. That seems like a weird amount of empathy when like you can look at a bird and care about it, but then you can look at an old lady and think food. When
well, I mean that's similar to you having a dog and then driving by the farm and see a cow and think steak.
Or going to another country where dog is food.
Yes, it is similar, but I feel like the humans on that scale, like you said, I don't pet my cow and I don't cuddle with them and do tricks with them, but I also don't have conversations about books with my dog.
Yeah, that's a little personal.
I guess what it sounds like to me is the difference between seeing ghouls the same way we see humans, where there's an extreme of villainy and also an extreme of trying to be a hero, trying to be a good person. And I think they're trying to present ghouls as being across the entire spectrum.
But for example, Toko, who's actually a pretty heroic character, like she's a good person for the most part, saw Ken being taken to be eaten by Rize. When she saw him again, she's like, oh, you're still alive. She knew he was food. She had served him coffee almost every day. Didn't know him super well, but knew him and was completely okay with him, or at least didn't have enough qualms to get involved. And then later shows up to help Ken because of other issues in the first episode.
I see her as a cynical hero. If we're going to paint her as a good character, I see her as a cynical one that says, I can't stop every wrong. I can't stop everybody.
And it's not even a real true inconsistency, and it doesn't even bother me that much. It's just Kayama was like, this makes the most sense to me. This seems like what most of you would be like with what you have to deal with to survive the mentality like we've been talking about. But
I also like the theater he puts into it as well.
Yeah,
I think you're right, actually, that most of them are like that. I mean, think of how many of them were present in his theater. Think of how many are later. There's 400 of them attacking this building. We also see, I think that we're zooming into the pacifists who occupy this tiny building, and there's like 6 or 8 of them.
That's probably very true, because they don't even seem to have that much sanctity of life for themselves. Because we saw the lady, we'll see the lady in the arena, and her son's the one down there. And then when he fails, she's like, "I hope you die. You're the worst."
Yeah,
like,
you taste good.
They don't seem to get. I mean, some of them obviously do, but they don't seem to have that much of a sanctity of life even among themselves.
There's even another point where there's like 3 of them beating up on another ghoul, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna cannibalize him." And I'm like, they're watching this. I'm like, wow.
And Mishke kicked the guy's head off for just being on one of his streets. So, what did you guys think of Kiyama?
I thought he was brilliantly written and loved to hate him. He was great because he was he was just this very typical predator, just kind of lulling his prey into this false sense of security just so he could have his flamboyant. And I think what sold me was because I was like, okay, they set him up in a very atypical, like, okay, he's gonna try and get Ken, right? And Ken's in danger every time he's alone with him. And they paint that pretty clear. I think what won me over was as soon as he found out that he only had one eye, he was like, okay, this is over. I am not sharing this meal. It's not I'm going to save him because he's special. No, I'm going to save him for me because now I don't want to share him.
Yes. Yeah. This character had some of the funniest scenes to me. I mean, this is my target humor. This was great. I loved it. But at the same time, I hated the character just because he was such a villain. So I that's why I mentioned in the chat that like I both love and hate this guy because he's made me laugh more than anybody in this anime. But oh man, is he disgusting and evil and oh.
His English dub voice is perfect.
Yes.
I don't know which one it is off the top of my head. I've heard him in dozens of animes, but he's that perfect, very intelligent, very high society voice, but also with that theater.
Nope. They do a good job in the sub too.
There's a scene actually about the Helter Skelter bar where they talk about Rize. Who's the redheaded girl in the Helter Skelter bar that he talks to about Rize? It's Yomo's friend.
Itori?
Yeah, Itori.
And she's just Yomo's friend?
We don't know much about her.
Okay. She's just the friend of the bar. Okay. And had known a little bit about Rize. But mostly this episode is about Kiyama's pursuit of Ken. Meeting him in the park accidentally and then inviting him to a bookstore, later, and they go hang out at the bookstore and then getting a drop of his blood and being like, this is amazing.
I'm confused. How did he get that drop of blood?
He shattered his own glass, and when Ken reached out to touch it or help, he cut his finger.
So ceramic can cut, but steel
I
can't.
was about to make the same.
I was so confused. I thought he used his Kagane, but then I was like, no, he would have seen it if it was his Kagane.
Maybe.
I'm confused on that point.
But
so I will have to say real quick, his voice actor was Michael J. Tatum, and he does the voice for Scar in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, Ken, I know this place that Rize used to hang out. You should come over. And they go to that place. And then the next scene, Ken's in a shower. Now, this entire anime, I feel like I'm being hustled along, which isn't totally unnew to me because My Hero Academia actually moves at a pretty fast clip through its story. It's, especially for a shonen anime, you're not getting 6 episodes of battle, and this did that too. And for the most part, I don't mind that. But like I've said, this felt like another skip beat whiplash moment and even Ken says like, is it okay that I used his shower? And I'm like, it's weird you're asking that as you're getting out. It's weird you're questioning the shower and that we missed the scene of, hey, come on in. Would you like to shower in my house that I just invited you to?
I didn't have any problem with this. For some reason, it just flowed in my mind. Like, okay, yeah, so they went to wherever this place was. Now he's coming back. He's hanging out.
They skipped all the mundane.
Yeah.
And actually, I kind of like that.
I thought it was feel like the conversation about please get into my shower isn't mundane. I felt like that was important.
I don't know why he thought he needed a shower, but I started laughing because I was like, oh my God, it's the obligatory shower scene, but it's a dude.
I actually thought like we went to the next day because I'm like, oh, he's at home because he's showering
first, but then I was like, oh. Okay.
And at least he does have the line, is it okay that I'm showering, or is it weird that I'm showering? But like I said, it's odd we got to that point without any, because he's clearly we find out he's washing his food. He's like gotta have him clean so we can eat him,
right?
Because he goes into the dining hall and it turns out to a huge elaborate trap. Like,
so that's why you think he was showering. It was actually a request. You're thinking,
yeah?
No, it was a request. He goes, "Is it weird that you asked me to shower?"
Oh, because he. I guess I didn't come across, or I didn't catch it in the sub.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and the moment I saw him in the shower and he asked that question, I was like, oh, he's washing his food.
Yeah. He drinks tea, which we find out, or coffee. We find out is drugged, and he ends up in an arena. It's also kind of weird. Your dining room turns into an arena, but sure.
Lifts up through the floor, or drops down, or something.
Yeah, but that's not the most unbelievable thing in a world of ghouls. So I was fine with that. And he literally is getting chased by this giant ghoul butcher. Well, this crowd of ghouls is excited to eat a ghoul, and they say like, we don't usually eat ghouls. Like there's not like a reason to. There's not a lot of flavor to it. It doesn't taste good. But you are delicious.
Oh yeah, he's like
because he's the half and half
smell of human, and like the crowd goes wild.
So, and Ken has to fight this giant monster thing, and when they do realize he's half human, half ghoul, Kiyama puts like you guys said, he puts a stop to it. This is over. I'm not sharing. His scene though was great because he runs up to the big guy, puts a hole in him, and then like splits him open and dashes through like he's bursting through the door. Yeah. and it turns his white suit red, but they draw it like he was wearing a red suit the whole time. I actually love that scene. I thought that was a hilarious scene. Perfectly fit the character, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. The way he used a giant monster man as a door.
He also did Okabe. I just had to put that out there.
That one makes sense. Okay. In episode 5 now. I liked how Kiyama was like, oh, just forget all this happened. Can you just go home and pretend I didn't just try to murder you and eat you?
Well, he tells him, this was just a joke among friends. That's all it was.
Yeah. This was one elaborate prank where I murdered somebody.
Koka has been sick from eating her friend's human food. She hasn't been going to work, and she's babysitting. So Ken visits her. Her friend also visits her, sees Ken in there, gets really upset about a college girl having a boyfriend, but all right.
No, she didn't actually get upset at the end. She's like walking away, giving her the thumbs up. So,
because she acted all huffy puffy when she handed the food over.
Yeah, at first, and I was like, "Where are they going with this? This is weird." But then she walks away, giving the thumbs up. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I get it."
The worst part about taking notes is like if I go down to write something and a scene like that happens really quick, it'll flash by me and I'll miss something.
I think this is one thing where having Hinami in the story does a lot of world building indirectly, because you've got this, young child ghoul that we've established also eats people, where you've got Ken teaching her school-aged things and in school-appropriate age for her age level. Yeah, and now she's being babysit by Toka. I don't know. I thought it was really great indirect world building. Instead of, I don't think there were any expedition dumps in this whole thing.
Yeah, probably. I think that checks out. Ken sees Mishke getting beat up by other ghouls, and actually ends up being his battle training is paying off. Who would have thought in a shonen anime? And I'm saying that jokingly. I'm not actually holding that against it. I'm watching a shonen anime. I actually expect, if the main character is not getting stronger, I'll be like, what are you doing?
Oh yeah, we barely mentioned that. Yomo is just like, all right, you're going to come here every day after work. I'm going to train you.
Which is, and to start it off, he literally just attacks him. He takes him down there and just like, okay, I'm going to beat you up now.
Yeah. Oh, you're good at dodging. We're going to keep working on that.
Yeah. We get this big scene of helping Mishke. He gets him home, takes him to his girlfriend who's a human and knows about him.
Oh, and she's like, isn't this the guy that like nearly murdered you?
Yeah. and he's in trouble because he's not eating, so he's not healing very well. The girlfriend's all upset, doesn't know what to do. So Ken's like, I'll figure something out. I'll find him some food or something. And again, this is not as bad, but I did get a little bit of story whiplash because we then, like, in 2 scenes go from that to the girlfriend is now kidnapped by Kiyama in his second attempt to get Ken in for a meal. And then Mishke finds out, like, oh, my girlfriend got kidnapped to get you. I'm going too. It's like, you can't. You're really weak. I'm going to show up. Mm-hmm. They go to a church. Kiyama's big plan is he wants Ken to eat the girlfriend while he's eating Ken. Yeah. It's basically a turducken in live action.
Where the turkey and the duck are still alive.
Right.
Yes.
Toka shows up and they have a big battle, but Kiyama, who eats on a regular basis, is easily overpowering all 3 of them. We see Mishke's big flashback scene. Now I'm feeling like it's a shonen anime. There's a flashback in the middle of a battle, but it was I actually liked it. It started off with him and his sister being alone, and her dying because she had trusted her human manager, and she got called in. So him, hardening up, like, oh, I'm not gonna trust anyone ever, and approaching this girl and seducing her, or becoming friends with her, seducing her, making her his girlfriend as a tool for use in the future.
An emergency meal.
Yeah, basically. And then when he gets ran through by Ken, he came that night to eat her and actually took a bite of her, and she let him, saying, like, I have nothing. You saved my life. I don't care if you're a ghoul, and if you got to eat me, I love you. And him realizing, like, oh, this person trusts me and will be there for me. Oh, I have feelings for her too. I like that this flashback tied directly into events that have happened in this anime. And that it wasn't just, hey, 10 years ago a thing happened and now I have motivation. It was the events of this anime have literally changed my life, and here's how, and here's now it's affecting the story itself. That was actually a little refreshing.
Yeah. It also did a good job of showing how much time has passed since those events, because on her shoulder she has a scar.
Right.
So that means there's been enough time for it to heal up.
Yeah, we are literally time skipping.
Yes, we are. Months and months and months.
You guys thought I was crazy.
No, I didn't say there wasn't time skips. I just didn't get the story whiplash that you are.
Yeah, I didn't. Okay. We're not as sensitive. I think that's been established over the episodes.
I'm sensitive. Yeah, don't make fun of me. So to even the playing field, Ken lets Toka bite him and eat it. Like it's not vampire. Like, I'm just gonna pierce your skin and drink you. It's literally like, will you take a chunk of meat out of my body?
This is another issue I have a little bit with the logic of the anime. Is she only takes one bite, but she gets a huge turbo boost from him. Now, my question is it because he's a hybrid, or would she also get that out of eating one bite of a human? Like, I'm not sure the energy coefficient here of what they get according to what they eat.
And they also made it seem like it was a temporary boost because it was such a small meal. But
yeah,
like a sugar rush, basically.
Yeah, I kind of thought of it as, like, especially later when it gets explained that she's of a type of ghoul that has a fast Kagane. And so she uses it up quickly and she'll tire out quickly. Just hang in there, right? So I thought that's what it was, but it could have been a turbo boost from the food. That's true too.
So she's able to win her fight and kicks Kiyoma's butt. Mishke, he actually goes to eat the girlfriend to get him his own power boost, and Mishke grabs him, and Toka cuts off his arms and leaves him to die. And she's like, "Yeah, if you want to live, I guess you better eat yourself. See you." It's kind of heartless. She also goes to kill the girlfriend because she knows the truth about ghouls, and even attacks, hits Mishka instead, and then the girlfriend apologizes, so she does it, but that upsets her. Like, it puts a moral quandary on her that she doesn't know how to deal with.
And then she calls her pretty. Mm-hmm. She's like, "How pretty," and it shakes Toka.
Oh, yeah, because you can see her Kagane.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that combined with the main character, with Ken's bringing up Toka's friend and saying, if your friend knew, could you just kill her on the spot? I thought probably a very pivotal part of it.
Yeah, I think this whole entire scene really messed with Toka's head. Mm-hmm. And I liked that even though she's not main character and she's a like main character B, they expanded upon that and they showed they spent enough time with her that we could feel that emotional weight.
We've been seeing the investigators killing ghouls across the city, and part of their investigation, like, hey, what do you know? Nothing. Or what do you know? Okay, nothing. What do you know? Oh, thank you. And they finally get to the doctor who's making a look for Jason at the same time that Jason does. Jason shows up. He takes his weapon, is going to kill the doctor, starts to kill him, and then the investigators show up. This is a good time to talk about Jason. I mean, he has his biggest scene at the end, obviously, but this is as good a time as any. His real name is Yamari. What do you guys think of the big bad of the season?
I liked him as a character. I thought he was a great bad guy to hate. He was kind of that top evil that Rize was, but in a different way. You know, Rize was the binge eater. He was the masochist.
Yeah.
I
think it's sadist. I think masochist is
sadist. Yeah, you're right, sadist. And I think what I liked about the way he was introduced and also his presence in the story is he's this mysterious S class. So I guess that would be like top level ghouls, power level ghouls. That he, obviously don't approach alone. You really don't want to hunt him. And he's this like looming threat to both worlds. And I think that's what I liked about him as a character.
Because he likes to kill ghouls. That's his hobby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He to me seemed like a mob boss who just happened to be a ghoul.
But he's not the boss. He's a boss of 13. If I remember correctly, right. Like he has his own faction.
Ward 13. He's the boss. Like the whole ward.
But
really.
Then did they recruit him into Origari or whatever it is? The group we see at the end?
Well, who was leading that group?
The one-eyed owl is the leader.
I don't think so. I think the one-eyed owl is our old bartender guy.
Oh, that might be true. But
so he's the founding leader of the White Suits from the 13th Ward. So he's not the leader of the whole 13th Ward. He just has his own little mob.
But he's also not the leader of Aogiri.
No, but they're from 11.
They are from 11. Yeah. But he's working with them. He's joined up with them.
I got the impression that he was the big one of 13, what they said. So I'm wondering if the White Suits are like the premier mob of Ward 13. But I that's the impression I got from him was like he's used to taking to giving orders. He's used to ripping people's toes and fingers off and breaking their legs and all the other things you would expect from a mob, right? And the worst kind of stories from a mob. And so
he seems like the Frieza of the story.
Yeah, kind of exactly. He's like when the scouters are going to break, right? And so he seemed like that really creepy guy that I really hated. But there were some scenes where he lost his composure, and that's something that I thought they did so well with him, where he would get into such a frenzied state of excitement over the torture he was performing, and just be like, "I want to eat you now. Why can't I?" Yeah, you're right. Someone else was in control because he wasn't allowed. Am I allowed to eat you now? Can I eat you now? And he kept getting into that state. And when he did, it was the anime was shocking me in those moments. Like, wow, this character, holy crap! I thought Mado was crazy. This guy is crazy. And so I was really impressed with that. And then getting his backstory, as we do later, it actually fleshed him out a little bit and made him a very interesting, complex character. So, and of course, what they do at the end with him is just, wow. Yeah, it's really good. So overall, I really like this character.
I'm going to save a little bit for the ending on him, but I will say he's voiced by
same guy does All Might.
Same guy does All Might. But I know his name, but I can't remember. I'm sorry, man. I follow you on Twitter. He's also Vegeta, and so many other voices. Yamcha. but
Does anyone care about Yamcha?
I do, because he said it was basically Surfer Vegeta is how he does Yamcha, and I find that hilarious. But he does a very All Might-ish voice for this character, and so it's hearing All Might saying like the most horrible things. And as a fanboy of My Hero Academia, I found no end to my delight in this character every time he was on screen. Yeah. It was fantastic. I'd reach over at one of my kids who'd be on the couch not watching. I'd be like, hey, Evil All Might's here. Yeah, it's awesome.
Which is funny because he's drawn very similar to All Might. Right. It's like huge dude.
Yeah, that's true.
He fights the investigators a little bit, but they're no match for him. He gets away easily. It's funny because like they're trying so hard. And eventually he just goes, "All right, your time's up. You tried. Bye. I'm going."
Yeah, he even breaks one of their tools.
Yeah. Then the investigators kill the doctor.
Yes, which I think he was planning to do anyway.
Yeah, he says that he was going to do it. It's just interesting that these investigators have no empathy for the ghouls at all. There's just literally none.
Which I can totally empathize with, like their perspective, as these ghouls are just a menace. They're vermin that prey upon humanity, and
totally. No one feels bad when someone takes a vampire in a vampire movie.
That's right. Yeah.
And is this when we learn that their weapons are basically stolen Kagani?
I think that's when he goes after the mom, which is next.
I thought they said something here, but yeah.
Oh, that's right, because
he pulls out the dad's Kagani, and that's where the daughter runs up. And then he sees the mom. He's like, "I'm gonna get yours too. I'm gonna get the set." Which is what happens. While stuff is happening back at the coffee shop, people are recovering from the last battle. Little girl and her mom, Hinami, go out to a bookstore, and she smells her daddy, and she runs off to him. And it's just his weapon in the hands of these guys. And the guy's like, "Hey, smelled this, did you?" The mom uses her Kagani to protect her daughter and help her escape, but then she gets executed. Ken,
she doesn't even fight back.
Ken shows up, and he, because the little girl finds him. She's like, "You gotta help." They run back, and all he does is, he covers the little girl's eyes and mouth so she can't reveal what they are, and he watches the execution. Again, zero empathy, and it's hard because you can understand their point of view, but we've also been spending time with these characters, and we know that they are not the monsters of the night. And so yet they're almost everyone's a villain here, and no one's a villain here.
It's a really complicated scene. I think that's what I loved about it, because you've got these soulless monsters, if you will, executing a monster, and then you've got Ken over here in just absolute horror and just terror and sadness for this loss for a friend of his and the mother of this little girl he's got in his hands. Just a really wonderfully done, complicated scene.
Toka then, being upset about everything that just happened, she starts tracking down the investigators. A bunch of them go out. They have like underlings that help them, right, for their ward, because they're in charge of this ward. They got put in charge of 20th ward. And she goes and watches them go have dinner. And then while the two underlings like go their own way, she steps out and just kills one of the underlings. Whoosh! Like he was like, "I'm gonna work really hard. Now I'm gonna do really So Kotaro gets very upset about this. Kurio shows up. Kind of had the feeling he's using his friends as bait.
Totally.
She wears her rabbit mask, and that's when they start calling her Rabbit. And this kind of fuels Kotoro's now path for vengeance. His underling, his friend has been murdered by this monster. Now he's going to go get her. She's unable to hurt them. She has to run away. Yoshimura finds out. He's like, "You're on your own. I told you not to do this. Screw you. I don't care if you're hurt. Not my problem."
Because and I think this is where I kind of appreciated him as a character, because he sees it as a bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it sucks that we lost one of our own, but we have this huge military force out there hunting us. And the lower we keep, the less of us are going to die.
We start making noise, more show up.
Right. And so if you're going to break those rules of silence, sorry, I'm not going to put the rest of us in danger.
And also, I assume he recognizes the cycle of revenge.
Yes.
Ramping up, and he's like, "Yeah, you kill them, they come and kill you, and then we kill them, and then everyone dies."
And he seems like he's speaking from experience as well.
Mm-hmm. I think he is presenting a reasonable lack of action. I think with the main character, we're getting to see a lack of action throughout the first season that is unreasonable, and there's times when he believes that he should have acted later. But with this character, he's not acting here. Right? What's her name? Toka's acting, right? She's choosing to make a decision and go out and do something. He's saying, no, let's keep doing what we were doing previously. We're not going to do anything about this. That could be seen as just inaction, but it's intelligent inaction. Like, there is a time and place to just keep your head down. I thought that was interesting because the theme of the anime really pushes toward making a decision, even if it's between lesser of two evils.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the lesser of two evils is inaction. So it's not saying that no action is never the option. So this character was actually really interesting to me in this moment. He kind of sent that message.
So Ken decides to help Toka, and she comes up with a plan, which is what? I know she wants to fight them in the sewer. I don't understand how I don't understand why she went to the sewer to draw them in.
So yeah, exactly like Motto mentions that it's very tough for him to fight her with that long, sneaky weapon in such an enclosed environment. Mm-hmm. And because of how fast she is, this was perfect for her.
So is her plan, so she goes to the sewer, she stakes it out, really, like, this is perfect, has Ken call the tip in that she's in the sewer. So then Kurio's like, okay, I'm going to take the chopped up mom, put her in a duffel bag, and throw it down there and see if anyone shows up. Is that the right order of events? Because I kind of got whiplash.
Yeah, so
again.
Toka's plan was, he's going to come, she's going to kill him there. But Motto, being the highly intelligent investigator, is like, oh, I see what's going on. It's a trap. Well, let's see what other things we can throw in the trap. So yeah, he lured Hinami out there on purpose.
Okay, because this episode ends with he gets Kurio gets the tip. Kuroko is training, or Kotaro is training, because it's an anime. And Ken gets his mask, which is iconic for the anime. Mm-hmm. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's
I like that it has a mouth that's zipped. I
like that it's creepy.
That's really cool. Yeah, and it is creepy. But like the fact that the mouth is zipped and only one eye is visible, like, it really matches his character very well.
Right. Hinami gets drawn to the sewer because of the smell of her mom in a duffel bag, which she then finds. That sucks.
Right.
No, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah. Toka and Ken are searching for her. They hear her scream. They're running there. Ken intercepts Kotaro before he can get to Toka. Toka gets into the sewer and has to fight Kurio. So both these battles are happening simultaneously. And this is the scene we talked about earlier where Toka is giving a speech and Kotaro is giving a speech about, the other side and how about justice and got to punish you. And they're not realizing they're saying the same things. And Ken kind of starts to realize that. He's like, oh, they're just too busy battling each other. And I'm the link. He's like, I can solve this hit to the face. I can do this hit to the face. Guy takes like 6 hits to the face. And how much distance did he cover? Because every time he gets hit, he goes flying back like 50 yards.
Yes.
Oh. So in Kurio's battle with Toka, she wins at first because her assessment was right. He can't get her with his weapon in there. But then he also now has the mom's weapon, and that one works quite well.
Yes.
Malleable butterfly wings
Right.
of flesh.
But
So creepy.
Hinami, whose Kagane is both combined, cuts off his arm and then cuts off his leg. And basically drops him. And what's funny is that even after that, he's like, no, I can still, yours is awesome. I totally got to have yours. I can still get it. And then Toka kills him. Meanwhile, for Ken's...
Well, there's also, like, his last words indicate that everything he's doing is fueled by vengeance against some one-eyed ghoul that he's looking for.
Oh.
So it reflects that his character had this point of origin where he started the path that Toka's currently on.
Right.
This is where it leads. It was good. It's
Again, the cycle of vengeance theme.
And even though you had this psychopath that was hunting down her kind, when she removed the glove and saw that he was married, it shook her. And I loved that it wasn't no longer this faceless kill of a monster coming after you, but all of a sudden it gave person and agency to this individual you just killed.
Right. Ken wins his fight by letting Rize have control. And then once he easily wins, destroys Kotoro's weapon, he literally has to tell Kotaro, like you got to run away because I am a monster right now and I don't want to be a monster and I will kill you. But his words, what he says, it's specifically, he says, I don't want to do something that will make me the monster you think I am. That stays with Kotaro for the rest of the anime.
In the sub, it's actually stronger. Don't make me a murderer.
Oh, that's interesting.
I loved this scene, him battling Rize internally while he's doing an external battle, and all of a sudden realizing, okay, I've won. Now I need to not take that extra step of becoming the bad guy.
Right. Kotaro does get away, and Yomo gets impaled, but he's fine with that because he came to watch just to see what was going on. Or
he was going to intervene if Ken got into big trouble.
Who knows with Yomo, man?
Isn't this? Yeah, I know. Isn't this when he said, "Oh, I understand why he's watching you now"?
Yeah, why he's taking an interest in you. Yomo, man, just Yomoing up. And then the ghouls go home to lick their wounds. Time passes. We do see a flashback of Kotoro's, starting out and getting his partner, and he's definitely in mourning for his partner who's been killed.
He has the scene when he finds the body,
right? Which is interesting because of how insane Kurio was. That he still had very sentimental about him. But things go back to starting to go back to normal for the ghouls. Ken is looking for information on Rize, and this is where we start to get talk about the 11th district. Things are going on in the 11th district. That's where Rize came from. And we also get a flashback of Toka's family life so that we can get a quick introduction to her brother, who is part of this gang that is looking for Rize in the 11th district. And it sounds like they took over the 11th district to find Rize, and now are coming to the 20th district, and they're going to take over the 20th district as well, but also as part of finding Rize.
Yeah, it seems like Rize is a much more important character than is led on in the storytelling so far. Also, it's interesting to mention that Kotaro and Kurio, they were supposed to finish up what they were doing in the 20th district soon, because they were getting shipped out to the 11th because there was problems brewing.
Right. The ghouls are winning in the 11th ward is what we find out. And actually the next episode starts with them taking out the 11th ward headquarters for the investigators. They take it over. They call the main headquarters like, hey, we literally just killed the last guy here. So, good luck to you. And this is where we get our first introduction to the Aogiri group. They are the ones looking for Rize. And there's
Jazuo, right?
We meet Juzo,
which is another insane character.
Yeah, she's a new investigator who shows up.
It's a he.
Is it
a he?
A guy.
Yeah. I thought it was a she for quite a while until Yeah, someone called it a he.
Covered in weird stitches, very eccentric. What did you guys think of Juzo?
Insanity. I'm wondering if he's a ghoul. Because he shows some very superhuman abilities. But, never uses a Kagane, eyes don't change, but they are just red from the get-go. And also stitches everywhere. So, and they're not painted on, like, there was one point where he pulled on it, on his lip.
I think you're onto something there because Ken bumps into him on the street and gets pickpocketed. And he says to himself, he smelled delicious.
Yeah.
Which is what they say about Ken.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually would make some sense.
If
maybe he's also a one, because I'm assuming one-eyed ghouls are the half and halves.
Right.
Because Ken is a one-eyed ghoul.
Actually, that would make sense because Juzo has white hair.
Yeah, but I think the white hair was just an effect of psychological stress.
Yeah, I know in the manga, it's not instant. It's over the time of the torture, it slowly turns white. And by the end of the torture, it's fully white. And where in the anime, they chose to do it all at once.
Yeah, they made it more of an indicative of an internal change.
Gotta go Super Saiyan, right?
Yeah. It's a strange way to go Super Saiyan I've ever seen.
Guys, I want to talk real quick about a character named Banjo. Because I love this scene. This punk guy from the 11th district burst into the coffee shop. He's like, "Hey, I'm looking for Brise. I smell her on you. I smell her on you. Dude, you're doing my girl." and I loved how he went from like wild raging, and I'm like, "Oh, here's our villain," and then like instantly like, "Man, I was such a jerk a minute ago. I lost my temper. I'm so sorry." But then finding out he does work for the bad guys because Toka's brother. Ayato shows up and Jason shows up and they wreck house in the coffee shop and they grab Ken, and after smashing him into the ground over and over again, they leave with him.
This is a brutal scene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
it shows how much Jason is a tier above everyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even his underlings were like, "Whoa,
yeah."
Whoa.
One of them, the one that's very effeminate, actually has to intervene and let him punch him, which like rips a hole
in his stomach.
And heal from rather quickly. One of the things I wanted to mention about Banjo was it really struck me as funny how this guy who's so silly and ridiculous, even his pack of friends, his little henchmen that run around with him, and they're faceless for a really long time, right? They're just 1, 2, and 3. Like they
have numbers on the back of their
names. I absolutely loved that. It's a great touch.
So yeah, Ken gets captured by this group because he is the Rise to Jason that he's been looking for. And then when Yoshimura finds out, he calls all the ghouls of his district together for a meeting. He's like, "Look, we can't save him." They're like, "Hey, we're all going." He's like, no, you don't understand me. We're all going, but we can't save him if we're not willing to go all out for it. That's what I meant. Let me finish, guys. This is also kind of a dick move because he definitely like did not finish.
Well,
he clearly set them up.
He started out the conversation with forget ever knowing this guy.
Right.
Like, okay, how can you change it? Like that was a dick move.
And Kiyama joins the team, and actually we've kind of been hinting at it and mentioning it. I love this turn. I love that. Hey, look, yeah, he's only here so we can eat him later, but that'll be helpful now.
And I loved how she's like, "I left you for dead," and he's like, "Yeah, I followed your advice.
Ate myself."
Turns out I taste pretty good.
Everyone likes their own brand. So in the next episode, we get the big showdown between the CCG and this 11th District Ghoul gang. It's all hands on deck for both sides. The battle starts, and meanwhile, the coffee shop ghouls, they have their own name, but I think it's on Teku.
Yeah, on Teku.
on Teku, and they're using this battle to sneak in and try to find Ken. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that happens in this episode, a lot of cool battle moments. Characters who I'm assuming we're going to see battles of next season, because we actually see a lot of battles start. Probably one of the cooler ones is like Kotaro sees Toka and starts chasing after her, and then these two guys attack him, and he remembers the advice of Kurio, which is fight dirty, man. These are monsters, and he manages to win. But him and like a group of CCG officers, I love when they found the one-eyed owl and they call into the the commanding officer, and like, it's the one-eyed owl. He's like, anyone who's not ready to die right now, just leave.
Go.
Yeah. Someone needs to fight him. You're not going to win. Good luck. Basically. Also a great scene is when Juzo stole the commanding officer's motorcycle to get inside. The commanding officer does this cool thing of like picking up another guy's gun and like, just shoot him, and shoots a guy from across, the way. And they're like, oh, he's so cool. And then Juzo jumps on his motorcycle and just completely outshines him.
And he starts crying. Yeah. My baby.
Speaking of which, did you guys see any of the ending scenes at the end after the credits where there's just some silly little... My favorite one was the you taste like horse manure. You tasted horse manure?
Yeah.
Those are good too.
That was when I saw that one, I was like, oh, he's coming back. Oh, crap. I don't know if I like this. We'll see.
Like I said, there's a lot of battles that are set up in this episode and left on cliffhangers that aren't answered in the next episode. So next season, I'm not going to even bother listing them all. Next season, I'm sure we'll get into the important ones when we talk about them. So let's go to episode 12, which is basically we rewind in time because we've known that Ken is being tortured by Jason.
This episode's so brutal.
And both Banjo and Banjo's friends have been coming in and being like, hey, hang in there. We're going to find a way to get you out. We know this is wrong. We're on your side, but we work for these guys. So just stay tough, stay tough. And
because Jason likes him for his regenerative.
Right. Rize has super regeneration,
which most schools don't have, apparently.
At least not this fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what he's been doing is cutting off fingers and toes and watching them.
He wants to fill a bucket. Right. And that bucket looks more than 5 gallons.
We also see stuff like putting a millipede or centipede in the ear.
Yes.
Jeremy actually has one.
Yes. Just wanted to show how big they are. Like this is
on the YouTube, it's a
small one.
Yeah.
It takes up my entire palm length. And I mean,
and it's curled.
Now this is a Texas one, but I checked. They're the same length, 20 centimeters versus 8 inches. And wow.
Everyone knows Ward 11 is the Texas of Japan anyway.
That's right.
But yeah, put it in his ear, for funsies.
Oh yeah.
This is a really beautiful episode because while all this physical trauma is being suffered by Ken, we are also jumping back and forth into his mind where Rize is mentally wearing him down
and forcing him to relive memories,
right,
of his past,
especially about his mom, really diving into the decisions of his mom, because that's where his own morality and life plans have stemmed from, is his mom, and really making him confront the mistakes his mom has made. So really beautiful in this, to the point where she convinces him, you do what you got to do to survive. That's what living is. Anything else is wrong. It's selfish to not survive because there are people who need you and care about you. In his mind, he eats Rize. This is where his hair turns white and he embraces his ghoul side. And then when Jason decides, I'm coming to eat you now, he bursts out of his locks, his chairs, and they have a battle. He still has the bug in his ear the whole battle. When they reminded you of that, I thought that was crazy. Overpowers Jason, pins him down, tortures him a little bit.
Makes him start that counting again. Yep.
Yeah, the counting thing was great. And then eats him. Now, thoughts on this?
I think one of my favorite parts of this whole entire... Oh, there's 2 of them. Where Jason grabs his leg and he literally twists and breaks his leg in order to get this just massively powerful kick on him. And then it twists back and he's like, you know what you've done to me? Why would you think that would hurt now?
Mm-hmm.
But what I loved about Rize is that we started off the anime with this high level evil, and here she is talking Ken into like this reevaluating what it means to be a pacifist and why that can be hurtful. And I thought that was brilliant because, like, at one point he's like, "You love your mom and you love your aunt. Your aunt was obviously taking advantage of your mom, and your mom died for it." And he's like, "I want my mom back." And she's like, "Even if that means your aunt goes without, yes. Even if that means your aunt gets hurt, yes. Even if that means you have to hurt your aunt." He's like, "Yes." I was like, wow.
Did it just say hurt in the dub? Because it said kill in the
Oh
sub.
yeah. Oh, well, she goes hurt and then kill. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And they even reached the point where she's like, even if you have to kill your aunt, and he's like, yes. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. No, that mental struggle that he has in this entire section is just fantastic. And that Rize ends up being the thing that helps him break through this barrier. But I do like that Rize is like, all right, so now you're gonna let me take control, right? He's
Right.
like,
Yeah, she had
I
her
will
own
never
goal.
let you take control.
Yeah, I love that she had her own goal. She had her own objective, and she was working towards that, and she thought she had him. Like, you could hear it in her voice. She's like, all right, we did it. Yes, let me take control. And then nope. And the whole like pasture of flowers just, I kept wondering, because every time one of the white flowers in the background turned red and opened up, there was like the sound of gurgling blood.
Right.
And it was just so well done. The ambience, the atmosphere of that inner dialogue, just
it felt like an infection that was winning and spreading with every time that those flowers opened up and made that sound. It just felt like the disease is getting what it wants.
And what was cool is it wasn't just like a white rose that turned to a red rose. It was a white rose that turned into a completely different red flower.
And like split open and with the
Yep. It was a really good scene. It certainly ended with such a punch. I mean, having him, this is the first time that he's actually willingly taken a bite out of anyone that's alive, ghoul or human. And so having that actually take place after the screen goes black and you just hear him chomping, so much emphasis on that. It was very, very well done. Absolutely love the way they ended it. But I'm really torn because I'm not happy that that's where the first season ends.
Right.
I want some of it wrapped up. Like the other things that are going on, I want to see what happens next. Is that a bad thing, though? I mean, this is a really good, strong way to end a first season, or I should say, to start a first season of a show that you intend to have long running. So,
if I had watched, I think I would have a much different opinion if I had watched this when it aired, and I had to wait 6 months for the next installment. I'd be upset.
I don't have much to say on the cliffhanger. I don't think I would be upset. One thing, an observation I wrote down, is he started popping his knuckles like Jason did.
I noticed that too.
Which to me, so in the beginning, the big bad is put inside of him as a part of him, and now that to me says Jason is also now a part of. Not only is he eating them, but and because Jason's whole backstory was that a human prison warden had tortured him and had also used to pop their fingers, and that this isn't a cycle of vengeance, but it's a different cycle of almost mental illness but just like a ghoul got put inside of him, a little bit of Jason is now a part of him, a part of his character.
I like that. That's really good.
As soon as he popped his finger, it was like, oh, that's rough. I don't know what kind of character we get in season 2. I feel like we're getting a new character almost, and I'm excited to see what that is.
I almost wonder if they're going to wind up having to fight him to subdue him or something. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I even trust him yet.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of the first season. We are going to be watching season 2 next, so stay tuned for that. Let's go to our final reviews.
I would give this a 5, just because there was so much I enjoyed about it. And I think I'm going to keep it at a 5 just because I have the second season to go. I would preface it with, I would be upset if I didn't have another season to move on to from this, because that's just me. I don't like unfinished stories. So I'll keep it at a 5, but if I had watched it at the time, I'd definitely be a 4, because that would have upset me. But I did like the cliffhanger. The cliffhanger was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also want to give it a 5. I've been looking because it feels like I'm giving 5s too freely. but I was looking at it and I can't come up with enough complaints to bring it down a whole point. Valid for me. So yeah, 5 here.
A 3 for me. I enjoyed watching it. I had some issues with main character and stuff, but
we're done here.
It was almost like a 2, but honestly, that last episode is amazing.
Really?
Yeah, I think I have some valid complaints about it, but I also have some good things to say about it. It's just right in the middle for me. That didn't change from the beginning. What do you want from me? If you guys have thoughts on the first season of Tokyo Ghoul, we would love to hear them. You can reach us on Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can reach us on our anime, the anime Baka Club at gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found this episode. We would love to hear it. Again, we're watching season 2 next, so not really big announcement, and we've got to get going. Let's say goodbye.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
See you next time.
Sayonara.